Welcome to another broadcast of The Competitive Edge. And of course, if you're listening or seeing this program for the first time and you're wondering what the competitive edge is all about, well, the competitive edge is all about you. So if you have a business and you want to attain the competitive edge, this platform is designed to really give you tools and a number of techniques to have that competitive edge. And of course, we have many, many subject matter experts from all around the world who are here to help you attain your competitive edge. On the flip side of the coin, the competitive edge is not only for those in business, but if you're the average person who wants to achieve more in life and just don't know how to go about doing that, the competitive edge is also designed to help you to find your competitive edge. So I want you to call a friend or tell a friend that the competitive edge is on. And today we're going to be looking at a pretty interesting topic. We're going to be looking at fear and self confidence because it is so vital to every aspect of your life. And today in the studio, I have two dynamic personalities with me today. I have Shivani. Shivani is a project management practitioner, and she's also a lecturer at UWI, and she wears so many hats, just like me. They said Toastmasters wear many hats, and Shivani is definitely the kind of person that wears so many hats, extremely talented, and wants to see great things happen for you. And we have the mighty Peter Scott. And Peter Scott is the brain behind Legacy Chronicles. He is also the person that says to you that you need your master plan for life. And if you don't have your master plan for your personal life, your family life, your community, business, you just ain't ready for life. So, with that being said, I want to welcome Shivani and Peter to today's program and ask you guys to give a soft introduction, at least a minute or so, about yourself before we get into today's program titled Fear and Self Confidence. Who going first? Shivani, all to you. Short introduction.
Thanks, Gary. Always a pleasure. And it's Friday morning, to spend with you all here. Very entertaining before I continue with the other activities of the day, all the work.
Yep.
So, who am I? Shivani Sinarain, project management. I believe project management can solve any challenge that you're having. Whether, traditionally, when persons think of project management, you think about, well, I have to be a project manager in construction or some of these hard core industries, whether it's IT, or oil and gas. So you're trained as a project manager and you believe that is what project management is all about. Yes, project management is based in these industries as well. But using some of the strategies can help you to improve anything that you do, whether it's in your personal life or you may have it in a business and you want to improve on something. So, project management, definitely understanding the different strategies can definitely help us. I look forward to the convo.
Certainly. So there you had this from Shivani, an extremely talented young lady, and we're happy to have her be part of this community. Now we have the mighty Peter Scott. Peter, all to you.
Or the mighty Peter Scott.
Mighty.
I come here for
Mighty,
kind of.
mighty.
All right. So good morning, folks. This is Peter Richards Gus Scott Senior, and we tend to look at the world from the standpoint of the struggles that our generation is going through. And looking at the struggles our generation is going through, we realize that the human component has been human beings overall seem to not be receiving the kind of attention and upliftment that it deserves. So we focus our attention on empowering the human growth and development through our Legacy Chronicles projects. And to do that, we realize that individuals can't just go through life by default. If you're going through life by default, what it means that you are actually going by somebody else's plan. So we empower individuals to design their own plan and to reproduce that plan in the form of a book, in the form of a course, become a public speaker, become a publisher, become an author, find your solution to the crazy that is happening in the world. And in so doing, you will have a revenue that by which you can take care of yourself and then actually leave a legacy for future generations. So I'm Peter Richard Guscott Sr., and that is what I do.
All right, thanks for that share, Peter. In the event that you're joining the program for the first time and you're also wondering yourself, who am I? Gary Thompson. I wear many hats, like a Toastmaster. But I love talking about the fact that I have written so many books. My last book is titled Master, the Sales Communication Process. Now, the reason behind writing this book, the motive for this book is because we see so many businesses get started every year. For example, we have 4.4 million startups in the US annually. But then we see we have 20.8% of the business startup that fail in the first year. We have 40% that fail in the second year, and 49.9% of business startup fail by the third year. And we have basically studied, the reasons behind why those businesses are failing. And one of the things that we have seen is that businesses get started, you have a good brand, but guess what? You do not understand how to break through the walls of being known, being liked, and being trusted. You don't fully understand the importance of what is branding and what is marketing. And so largely because you don't understand it, you don't apply yourself the way you ought to apply yourself to build, a Fortune 500 company. And because of that, you fall through the cracks. So this book, the books that we write, tend to focus a whole lot on some of your weaknesses and helping you to convert that now into a strength and really helping you to grow and scale your business in the way that you want that to happen. And in many cases, way beyond what you expect for yourself. Because in the book, we talk a lot that you don't go beyond your sense of self. We're going to be talking a lot about that today. But that's just a little bit about me. I'm also involved with private equity and advising, helping persons to understand financial instruments, debt, equity, credit, creative financing, and so much more. Now, if I talk about all the hats, we're going to take whole day here today. So enough about me. Now, Shivani and Peter, today we are going to be having a pretty interesting conversation, and we're talking about today fear and self-confidence. I do believe that overcoming fear and mastering self-confidence is vital for business, and it is a necessary means for life. And one of the questions that came in is, how would you define self-confidence? How would you define confidence? I want to attempt to answer this question. From experience, what I've seen is that we all have two voices in our heads. So we have a project. You might have never done the project before, and there's where you have the greatest challenge. And one voice is saying, well, it's me. I can do this. I can do this. And that's the confidence voice that is speaking to you, is to say, I can do this. But on the flip side of it, you have another voice that is saying to you, hey, I can't do this. And who are you to think that you should be doing this? All right. So you have those two voices that you're battling with. And one voice we call the confident voice, and the other voice we call the not so confident voice, which we call fear. And sometimes the fear becomes louder, much louder than the confident voice. And this is my simple way of describing what self-confidence is. Self-confidence is you pushing through fear, you pushing through doubts, and you making that commitment to lay one block at a time, regardless of how fearful you are. You don't have to get the whole wall up one time, but it's just you laying that one block at a time. You just focus on the one block. You're going to be fearful or whatever, embrace it and just focus on laying that one block step by step. And that's again is my simple definition of self. That's my simple way of defining self-confidence and the term confidence. The question is thrown out to each of you. Can you guys, based on your knowledge and experience, how would you relate to this question, defining confidence?
So I'll jump in before, right? Mr. Scott, I'll jump in before you because you said the mighty Mr. Scott. So I'll
Mighty
jump
Scott.
in, right? I'll jump in. Confidence. So I want to throw out this idea, right? Really to you all. Not really an idea, a scenario. Two persons, myself and another person. Let's say it's a hypothetical situation. Let's say I am the supervisor, I'm the leader, I'm the manager. This individual got to prepare a cost estimate of a job, right? You have to prepare the cost estimate of this job. And you don't want to do it, right? Or you give all different reasons why. What should I say as the supervisor? Should I just say that he's being an insubordinate? Or could there be a reason why? What do you think? So I throw in out that idea or that little scenario as well. So the individual, let's say, is working with me and he has to prepare a cost estimate for a job. Doesn't want to do it. Well, he's saying, well, Shivani, 20,000 US or something, right? I just hypothetical. You're not preparing it in this document. You're not preparing it in the document. Should I say that he's insubordinate? Some people may, right? Some people immediately may say, but why is Gary not doing this? Gary is not doing it because he doesn't know how to do it? Or is it that just thinks it's wasting time because it's an instruction and you don't want to do it? But, not all the time. That is the reason why the individual doesn't want to do it. The individual may not want to do it because they don't feel confident in their ability to really prepare the document, because they may feel that whatever I say, if it's the cost estimate is 20,000, and if it is not 20,000 when we actually go out now to do the job, the individual will be blamed for that. Now we have to remember that is a type of environment that we are part of. That we may criticize people. And because you criticize persons, they're not, people are so hesitant to put themselves out there. So the scenario was the individual needed to prepare a cost estimate. Me being the supervisor, you give that instruction hypothetically, and then Gary is saying he doesn't want to do it. You're going around the bush, you're beating around the bush, all kind of thing, to actually give the document. So should I now say that Gary really is being insubordinate or Gary don't know what to do? But I could say that, right? I could say that. But over the years, I realized in my experience, especially in this type of industry, in the facilities management, well, maintenance actually, persons are not equipped. They're not confident in themselves to prepare certain type of documentation. Right? So I'm really blending it really with project management as well. And the reason is that they are not trained. They believe they are trained and somebody just telling them what to do, but the official training is not there. So the industry and maintenance may not be looked at as this knowledge base, this individual that knows and could document, right? And Peter was talking about becoming visible. and really that persons will respect. So the individual felt like that. And that's what I realized with that person. So Gary needed to become more self-confident in himself in order to prepare this document for me. Now I had to realize that, otherwise this individual will just go through years and person will say they don't know what they're doing, right? They just don't know what they're doing. But we as persons, leading people, whether in business or whatever you're doing, you have to remember that there is always a reason why somebody is not doing it. And in his case, he had the knowledge but couldn't we call it transferable skills, couldn't transfer it into a document. And he was able to train him to do it, and the estimates are perfect. So self-confidence comes from somebody understanding you, right? I had to understand the individual. I really had to learn the individual as well to develop that person. Because I said to myself, I don't want to be the supervisor that did not see this in the individual and was just jumping like everybody else now, Peter, and saying, oh, well, Gary don't know what you're doing. Oh, forget Gary, let me go with somebody else. I could have done that, I could have done that very, very easily, because it really takes effort to really analyze somebody. I mean, I'm not a psychologist, as what you were talking about, Gary. I'm not a psychologist, but we say in management, you should know about business psychology. You should know about people. It's all about people. So that's from now. I mean, I'll come back in. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy that you would have said that. None of us here are professing to be psychologists, but all of us here, we have tremendous years in working with people in small, medium, large scale businesses. And Savannah is right. In studying business and project, there's soft psychology that you are studying. And we're just reflecting on those soft psychology and what it means. It's relevant to the individual and workforce development. Now, Shivani, I want to say something else, because you've hinted on a research that we have done many years ago. Many years ago, we saw a trend, and that trend is that the perception is that once you leave the university, you graduate from the university, the academic exposure prepared you fully for the workforce. And when we do the analysis, because what was being seen is that you are having top graduates that are coming out of various types of universities, but then they're coming with a theory. All right. They are excellent with the theory. But when it comes to executing on the theory, that's another ball game altogether. And there is where we begin to draw the conclusion that academics is not necessarily translating into performance. And why is it not translating into performance? Because academic, in many cases, is not dealing with the soft skills. It's not dealing with the inner challenge. Some may want to say the inner demons that you have to deal with. Is that you know exactly what you need to do, but then you're not the skilled public speakers. All right. So you have fear when it comes to going to the public and speaking confidently and conveying your message across the table. And in fact, I had so much of experience working with people breaking through the barriers of fear and self-confidence. I could recall at one time we had a group conversation, in one of our clubs, and we have a pretty highly intelligent young lady pursuing law, but because she was not well experienced with the soft skills of speaking, she get to the lectern, she stood up at the lectern, she began the ABC, but then she froze. And with that came the tears. And that's how serious it was. And I love the fact that you would have said that sometime as leader for your corporate position, you are concerned that, hey, the person come with distinction and 4 point whatever GDP, whatever you want to call it. But that in itself, if you're not looking at the soft skills, um, it's going to undermine how the individual perform the soft skills, like what is being done to build self confidence and self awareness, and all of these different things which we're going to look at just now. But I just want to say that a little bit based on what you would have said. Academics doesn't always translate into performance, because performance is highly based on introspection, the introspection that is taking place within the person. And people never grow beyond their sense of self. So you may have the academic wherewithal, but if your sense of self is not where it's supposed to be, it's going to undermine how you perform in the organization. Peter, how would you define self confidence?
Well, self confidence in our world, it can be, there's two things that we have to look at. But let's look at the word confidence by itself alone. Confidence, right? Confidence is, it is an assurance, or it's a feeling of empowerment that somebody is equipped to do a job, whatever it is that needs to be done. Confidence is that I am equipped to do the job. So confidence is based upon something. Otherwise, if it is based upon something, for me to say that I can do the job and I am not equipped to do the job, that's the place where nobody wants to be there, because now that becomes arrogance. So the concept of self confidence, depending on how we look at it, because it says that I am confident in myself. So the whole aspect of even what you mentioned a while ago, Gary, that we cannot move beyond the sense of self. So individuals has to ensure that the self that they are talking about, and in this, and what we have found in our world, is that a lot of persons do not have that sense of self that you speak about. They do not even know who self is. They have not asked the tough questions that they need to ask. They have not answered the question of the who am I. They have not answered, they have not sat themselves down, and so they base a lot of times who they are on what they think they ought to do. And that, in a lot of times, is why the world is in the place, in the state that it is in, because people are building or trying to develop on faulty foundations, very faulty foundations. And so this is why the world, I believe, is in a place. So in our world, where self-confidence is concerned, we try to get people, whatever you're going to say your confidence about, what are you basing that up on? Do you have a plan? Do you have a plan? All that I said I'm going to do you have a plan for it? And when you find that there is a plan, then the confidence comes naturally. I can, then all the components, as you mentioned, Gary, about being able to empower individuals to understand the soft skills, as personnel, answering the questions, because now it is what they're saying is now based upon data. So data now drives the individual to represent. Yes, because the first thing is not even about what is to be done. It is about the sense of self and who self is, and that self is equipped, self is informed, self as some kind of machinery that is going to guide them to complete the task that is at hand.
All right, thanks for that share, Peter. So the first question that was asked is for us to define self-confidence. To move to the next question, I simply want to add this. If we can stand up confidence and or self-confidence next to that word that we call experience, you're going to find that the lack of self-confidence is nothing but the lack of experience. So I do believe that the more experience you have in laying that one block at a time, one block over a longer period of time, and you build up experience in doing this, there is where your confidence level begin to raise. So since we have this definition of what is self-confidence, it's about the built up of the right experience. Perhaps something for us to think about in the workplace, in nurturing our kids, is for us to create the right experiences for them. All right. So if you want them to be a good public speaker, a good writer, a good leader, we create the scenario where we have built out an ecosystem of experience, and we constantly expose them to that because we know that with the right experience is going to remove that lack of confidence that so many young people and people all over the world suffer with. So it's us to bring now, line up confidence and self-confidence and what it is to the word experience. I think is a simple formula to get you past or get you to that point of defining what is self-confidence. The next question that was tabled is, why does self-confidence matters? Why does it matters? I'm going to attempt to answer this question. What I've seen is that, and I'm going to repeat this, people can never grow beyond their sense of self. You cannot grow beyond your sense of self. And you find that your sense of self heavily influences the level of confidence that you're going to have. I think self-confidence influences how far we go in life and how much we achieve. And that's why it matters. And I want to repeat that. Self-confidence influences how far we go in life and how much we achieve. And let me give an example. You may have two persons going after success, and one has been socialized to see the sweetie stand at the corner as their level of achievement. All right. And on the other side, you have another young person who has been socialized to think that, hey, we are dealing with Sweetie Stan, we're going global. So there's two different exposure here, but there's one that genuinely believe that he can go beyond a Sweetie Stan because this is the level of experience, ritual that they have been exposed to, either by default or by design. On the other hand, now you have another young man who have been exposed to a different type of experience. To say the sky is the limit. So it is important because it literally helps you to predetermine how far an individual is likely to go with their life. And I think that's a simple explanation of why it matters. You can grow. All right. It's like you train a person to see a particular way of doing things. And because you train them this way, they believe it. All right. They believe it. So I'm going to pause here for now and just open up to the panelists. We're just attempting to answer some of these questions that came in. Who wants to go first? Why does self-confidence matters? Why? Shivani?
Yes. I was trying to give Peter a chance, I mean, I don't want to take over the self-confidence,
Ladies first.
Jump in.
You don't want to demonstrate that you
Yeah, I don't
are.
want to demonstrate it, too much. Go for
Yes,
Peter. I mean, he's a mighty one that we
Mighty
put on.
spot.
But we'll talk about that later, right? We'll talk about that later.
Remember, I'm not the one who said that, okay?
Yes, yeah. Well, we'll talk about Gary. I'll have
Shivani, he's mighty spot, but then you is super Shivani, man.
No. Yeah.
Super Shivani.
We'll talk about that. I'll wait for the other persons to assist me in
Okay.
this next
As
week.
long as I have to prepare for some licks, Peter.
Yes. I'll wait for Kenny Rogers to come in, the singer. I'll wait for him next week.
Okay, Shivani.
So in terms of this self-confidence, right? What you're saying there, that you could never become better than what you know, right? You only know what you know. Only know what you know. Some persons may look at what the candy shop on the side, as you said, and that is what they aspire to. And
Yeah,
some
that's
people
it.
say, "But what's that? I don't want that alone. I want something more than that." So, what really makes the individual think beyond that? What makes individual think beyond that? Yesterday, I was having this conversation with a group of persons. Now, I believe training and development needs to be done more with this topic, right? Self-confidence and training people in a different way. Because I will speak to persons who think linear and they want to achieve, but they'll say, okay, I'll make it to the top of the organization or the top of the department, and that's what they know. But for me, even if I become top of an organization that I'm running, that is not enough for me. Some persons may say I'm crazy, right? A lot of people think I'm mad, right? Because if you reach where you want to go, what is your problem? I mean, just perfect it. But I guess I'm never satisfied with the status quo. If as you have interacted with me, I'm always the type of individual, meaning that the status quo needs to change, right? So, and there's always something more. There's always something more for me. I don't know if I'll ever change that way. I don't think I'll change that way. And as I get older, I think it's becoming more and more embedded in me. And you ask yourself, well, how is that becoming more and more embedded in you? Is it, I think we had this conversation already, is it because of your parenting, culture? What is it? Ideation, getting ideas from different persons. You also mentioned experiences. Your experience is your greatest teacher. But some of the experiences that persons get, it's limiting. It's limiting you, that you will only think about the candy shop because that's your experience. That's all that you know. The environment, the organization created that for you. And they train you for that. They're not training you to go beyond that thinking. They're not training you to go beyond that thinking. Some organizations may and some organizations may not. So it comes back again to, yes, it is from parenting and of course like that. But what about children who are not trained in that way? What about persons who just came into the organization now, and you as a supervisor, you as a manager, you as a leader, you have to deal with them now. But they're not trained like that. They're not trained like that to know that they can do anything, and they're not limited within these four walls and this brick and mortar place that we'll call it. Are they understanding now that there's technology? Are they going to be resistant to the technology, that you can actually open up new markets, new world for yourself, as you said, global, right? Are you able to do that? And self-confidence is really what is needed. So people need to learn these strategies more. We need to be taught it in schools from a very, very young age. One of my colleagues, this is what he was, it's an institution that he's running, a school. And this is part of his curriculum, right? It's part of his curriculum. It's we call it, it's not in the traditional public schools that we'll call in Trinidad here. And that's what he's doing. He's teaching self-confidence. He's teaching people self-confidence. There's so much literature on it. And, I look forward to being part of a project like that, where we could research it, as your favorite word, research, Gary. And, your research to show you how now that is improving the individual 20 years from now. Because you can't just say we training here to be self-confident and go and write an exam and that's it. How is this training now going to develop you? So experience, and what experience that you have obtained helps you to become confident. But also the organization will have a key role to play in this. You could have, as we call it, a toxic boss that makes it terrible for you. I came out of a conversation again with someone who left the organization because of that, who left an organization that I know. And I felt so sad that I did not know about it, that I could have, assisted a little bit and get other people to talk about it to her, because it was a very sad time. So self-confidence. Now you could have a toxic boss, and being self-confident, you are able to handle that. Huh? So
Yeah.
self-confidence is necessary to grow as an individual, to deal with situations, experiences. If you did not have it from the school system, how do you get it now? Right? How do you get the experiences now? How do you move? Because I didn't get self-confidence from the school system initially. I never got it. I would have probably got it a little bit from my parents, of course, who preach that type of thinking, that you could do anything, and go anywhere in the world. So that came from me from a very young age, that you could do whatever you want to do. But it definitely did not come from school. School didn't teach me that at all. Even university didn't teach me that. So, and then experiences. So when I try to analyze myself, because as you say, you do a lot of retrospective, and you're looking back at yourself and you have to reflect. I think it's parenting. I think my mother really did a good job with me in terms of being self, that you could do whatever you want to do. I don't know. Well, I don't know if you think that about me, that she did a good job, Gary.
Yeah, I certainly believe so.
That's
I
really
certainly listened.
You gotta-
Say,
Sorry?
Peter.
Peter?
I was telling Gary got a quick chance to redeem himself right there.
Yes. But it took a little long. I was throwing it out at him,
No,
Didn't catch it.
it is transparent, Shivani. It's absolutely
good.
transparent that it did a good job. And I guess that's why you are not complacent doing one thing for too long.
Exactly.
You
And
gotta expand.
an experience is really a hell of a thing. Being here with you and Peter, people have said that I have become so much more confident as well. So
Uh,
That's the power of
Peter,
competitive energy. Super Shivani is there. I tell you, you're a superwoman.
you
I
kind of
told you.
she kind of look like Wonder Woman too,
Okay.
I agree, Peter. I
I'm
agree, Peter.
going to pull up some YouTube on that after and check it out. Yeah.
All right, just let me quickly comment on what Shivani said. Shivani, you said a lot, but I took away two specific points. I see that there's two edges to experience. All right, our experiences can push us forward, and our experiences can pull us back. The strange thing about it is that in most cases, for most people, their experiences are designed to pull them back. And that's the negative side of experience. The second point that you would have made, which I've taken away, is the organization culture, the organization setup, and how it can play a tremendous role in nurturing self-confidence within our youth and people generally. And one of the points that I really want to bring out, in some parts of the developed world, and let us look at academics, when you're doing your study, it's not just in theory, all right, because doing the theory doesn't necessarily translate in the effective application that you want. So what they have done, they have combined theory with practice. And what that practice is doing for the student, it is helping them to understand, how do we lay the block? one block at a time until we get this wall up. And they have done that so many times by the time they exit university and college that their confidence level in doing what they were trained to do is so high that the average person can't compete with them. The average person that just focus on theory cannot compete with them. So that in itself is a reflection of the corporate culture. And I must say this, largely because we have seen, because I've lectured at universities, I've lectured to private sector, I've lectured for many, many years. And what I see happen is that you train people, you put out your A game, and you recognize that even in your A game, you have a small fraction of people that internalize the information and is willing enough to apply the information to affect change in their life and in the organization. That for me was a serious point of concern. So what we have done, we have set up all of our training to reflect 72 hours of theory and 48 hours of practice. So the
Yeah.
practice element is an essential part because we know that the practice is where they're getting the experiences, they're learning how to lay one block at a time, and that is significantly boosting their confidence level.
Mhm.
So organization culture plays a pivotal role. um, the home in your case did well, and that says a whole lot. Perhaps parental role has to be redefined in cases where uh, teaching about overcoming fear, teaching about being the confident you is not talked about enough. Perhaps there need to be some redefining of what parenting role is in those contexts. Because I will come to a question later on in the program, uh, and we'll talk more about what we are discussing here. The third question that I want to throw out, which Shivani, you've already hinted on this already, is how does mentorship, how does coaching help to overcome the lack of fear? So I think we have actually answered this one, but I want us to go into it a little deeper. Um, I do believe that socialization is vital and necessary for personal and professional development. Socialization. So socialization can come from the home. Socialization can come from the community, club. Socialization can come from our school system, our education system. Socialization can come from the church. Socialization can come from so many different areas. But I'm saying it is a necessary means to help nurture the mind in the right way. We can't leave this all for the organization, because when you come to the organization, in most cases, and I know that this is one of the arguments, you're expecting a ready-made suit. You're expecting the talent that is going to come, and they're going to do the diagnostic. They're going to go through their acclimatization process. But at the end of the day, they're coming as high fly to say, okay, this is where we're at, this is where you want to go, and this is how I'm going to get you there. And they have that high confidence level to move your organization forward. And I want to say this because this is so profound. I mean, to the average person, this might be a light topic, but it's a light topic that has massive ripple effect on how that organization is growing and how it's going to scale. If you have a team of confident people in the workforce, and you say to them, hey, we are moving from a local content and we go into an international content, and they say behind you, we believe in this process, we are ready for this, we've been waiting on you a long time, how much faster do you think that organization is going to go? Because they already been socialized into these big thinking. I think sometimes we socialize our people to think too small, and when we see the results of thinking too small, we become scared of it. So I think that there's a need for socialization. Lastly, I want to say this socialization can come again from mom, from dad, from schools, from books. Peter do a lot with books and social media influencers. There's a lot of information out there. So I just want us to chime in how does mentorship and coaching help to reverse what we very often see in the organization is a lack of display of confidence, self-confidence.
Now, in terms of mentorship and coaching, two of my favorite topics again, right? I have plenty of favorite topics apparently, right?
Shivani, not cutting you.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts right there? I want you to pick up back from it, but I just want to say this to Peter. Peter, your platform looks at personal life master plan.
Mhm.
And I want to also hear you talk about how the personal life master planning should also take into consideration self-confidence and the role that that master plan can really play to shape the individuals. Let's think about that. We're coming back to you shortly. Shivani, do continue with your thoughts.
So mentorship and coaching, as we see, really many I have experiences, right? A lot of times people don't want to have or don't really look at going for a mentor, a coach, because they are thinking they're not accustomed to having
To
an
that.
individual to speak to, right? You're saying, but coach, why I have to have that? I mean, that's something strange. But during the pandemic, I think probably because the market opened up in terms of a lot of technology now and the use of it, I saw it as an environment that was growing, the field that was growing with coaches and mentors like that, coaches. So you have to know for yourself, right? If you require a coach or you need to get some type of assistance, I like to call it, it is just it's just to talk to someone, right? Sometimes people just want to talk to somebody. So having a coach, organization should develop this type of thinking, right? Where you create a mentorship program. I'm a mentor part of my organization, and persons that will come to me, so they'll pair you up. They pair you up, they do the whole thing, and they pair you up with different persons. And I was so impressed that people would have reached out and the type of conversations that came out of that little talk. It really opened me up to so many things because it's regional that we were doing it. I was in Trinidad and this individual was in Barbados, part of the same organization. And it really helped. It helped me too, me being the mentor, because I had learned so much from the individual as well. So there is such an importance for this role, the mentorship program in organizations. It should really, really, really be developed, because the same thing I was telling you all just now about Gary, in terms of this individual that I knew, if someone had really taken the time to mentor and see some of the she went through trauma, as we see, right? And left the organization, because she could have stayed longer and retired, but she left the organization. She left it quickly and she didn't really get all the benefits. And I feel so sorry, as I said, because the mentorship program, or if someone really had taken the time to speak to her and say, hey, Gary, let us talk mentorship here or coaching. And you would not believe what was her profession. Make a guess what it was her profession. A psychologist.
HR?
A psychologist.
Psychologist.
Yeah.
Wow.
A psychologist. And this individual could not handle it in that organization. She couldn't handle it in that organization. So what does that tell you? Yeah, it tells you a lot. It tells you a lot that you could be the best in your trade, right? And the best in your trade, meaning that you are a psychologist. You have been trained like that, but you couldn't handle the situations. You couldn't handle it. You needed somebody to talk.
Experience. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe in that rule, the mentorship and the coaching. Excellent. The coaching for me, I love to use the GROW model. When you're discussing it with persons, you're telling them GROW, and you do go through the entire system. Then there's the Oscar model. There are so many different models for coaching, just to get to understand the individual. Now, what we have to remember with coaching and mentoring, you are not telling the individual what to do, right? You are guiding them, you are facilitating them. And that's why I believe in what Peter is doing in terms of the master planning. You have to communicate this. People need to understand. When you develop that process, you really will become more self-confident, that I'm seeing. Yeah. I just jump
All
into
right,
Peter.
yeah, that was a great share. Peter, just let me quickly say this before you come in. It would be the day when institutions, organizations, take a pause a bit and recognize that academics is so important in the equation of human and industrial development. It is very important, but the soft skills also is so important. But what I know is for sure is that the private sector, in how it is structured globally, they see these added developmental programs as taken away from the bottom line. All right. And I can agree with that statement, and I can also disagree with the statement. And just let me say why I can agree and disagree. It can take away from the bottom line if perhaps you're implementing the wrong training to help the staff to boost self-confidence. Because once you boost self-confidence, the objective in boosting self-confidence is you want it to translate into increased workflow. You want it to translate into increased productivity. And with increased productivity, that will also translate to increased profitability of the organization. So it is based on the fact of you have a desired end results, which is increase, that will literally justify the cost associated with creating this in the corporate culture to make greater things happen. Something that I want many companies to look at is your sales team. You may have a sales team, they may be selling, but are they confident enough to deliver quality results consistently above and beyond the expectations of the organization? And their specific programs that we have talked about, we have designed to help your sales team to do better. Of course, this is not just restricted to the sales team, but I mentioned the sales team because the sales force is literally the financial heartbeat of that company. Of course, that is not all, that's not the only heartbeat, but it's an essential part of the organization heartbeat. Peter, all to you now. You are an expert with master planning. And what would you say to a parent, to an institution, to an organization leader that are placed into this leadership position, but then their master plan doesn't reflect anything that is helping their mentees to overcome fear and to build self-confidence? The simple question is, how important is having a master plan that speaks specifically to overcoming fear and self-confidence is to those leader and their leadership role?
Having a master plan. So you're saying that the organization should have designed in their master plan something that is going to kind of encourage or develop self-confidence in the workforce. Is that the question?
Yeah, not just workforce, Peter, but across the ecosystem of life. All right. When I don't want to say put this at the workforce, but we can put it at home. At home, you have a responsibility as a parent to instill these values.
Right.
Perhaps we say community organization, is not just to play sports, but is you play sports because you want to build a certain confidence level. They should be more intentional about all of this. So I'm talking about this across the entire spectrum where you can find leadership.
Right. All right. I was just trying to all right, see how the question was being framed, because the idea of of self-confidence, our approach in our world, our approach to it is that we place it squarely in the hand of the individual. We want individuals to understand in their personal life master plan your personal life. So that's not something that you want to leave to another human being, not even your parents. At this stage, it comes to us. If you're a child, it's different, because in that state, if somebody was not fortunate enough to have that kind of an upbringing, then what do we say to that individual? So when they come to us, we are placing the issue of self-confidence squarely in their hands, and it is fairly simple, because confidence has to be based on something. It's not just that somebody's trying to pump themselves up, because individuals that pump themselves up, what you really find that pumping, as Shivani was mentioning about that individual that made this other individual's life a living hell, that they had to give up. It's fear. What can motivate an individual to make another individual feel so bad about themselves and what they do, that they give up their career and what they've been working for? What you find is a small person sitting in a big seat. And so these are the things that we realize, that it doesn't have to be that way. And when we empower individuals to understand that, yes, the world out there will eat you if you allow yourself to be eaten. So it boils down to purpose. It boils down to purpose. So in our world, in getting person, when you understand who I am, and sometimes we tend to think that these little questions are insignificant. But when you ask yourself and you answer that question, and I will forever say that, because without that, nothing else matters. If you have not answered the question of who am I, nothing else matters. Because yes, you will have all that accolades coming from the university or from Harvard or from Princeton or wherever the universities are, and put you in a space where you have a shark, a little person with a big ego, and you run away. But then when you know who you are, as Shivani was saying, if the person had received some coaching, if the person had not even received the coaching, if the person had understood who they are and their purpose, they will understand that this will just be a challenge. That would just be a challenge in order for them to grow who they are even more. So if I could answer the question, and I see where what where we want to, this program, as our viewers come on here, we want to give you some tactic. We want to give you some skills, something that after you view this program, you can walk away and you can implement. So what is that one thing that we want you to implement today? Is first of all to understand your balance, because self-confidence can be a thing that either way, if it shifts, there is a delicacy where self-confidence is concerned, because too much of it makes you arrogant, and nobody wants to be around an arrogant person. And too much and too less of it makes you have a inferiority complex, and we know that will undermine the person in their whole growth and who they are. So how do we have that delicate balance of self-confidence where you stand as a person of authority, you stand as a king or as a queen in your space without trying to get over on anyone or be smaller than who you are? No, but it is just to understand who you are. And there are certain processes you got to ask the question. You got and I would love to go further, but foundation is foundation. I'd love to run across and begin to give these steps and these, but without the foundation, and so what I would say to anybody, wherever you are, let's lay, and it's never too late to get the foundation in order, because why? We are human beings. And the essence of being a human being is it has to do with growth, development, and renewal. And Shivani would say something like you learn, you unlearn, and then you relearn. So in the area of self, it is always a good place for you to do some self examination and to realize, where am I in this situation? Why am I operating the way? How am I operating? If I'm doing well, then expand that some more. If you're not doing well, you really need to do some improvement. But everything is going to base upon those questions and the matter of purpose. The whole program of um, the personal life master plan, it gets individuals to understand basic purpose. What purpose do I serve, and how do I extend that out into our world?
Mm-hmm.
All right, thanks for that share, Peter. It was powerful. I really enjoyed every bit of what you said. Now, I have the last question, so I want us to focus on this, and then we're going to give our closing remarks after this. The last question that I have here is: do too many people struggle in silence with a lack of self confidence? Do too many people struggle in silence with a lack of self confidence? And I believe that the answer is yes, 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 and yes. I do believe that people can mask their insecurities, their weaknesses with a smile. And sometimes, as a leader, you need to be sensitive of this. And let me give an example. I could recall a few years ago, I was doing training in an organization, a big organization. And some of the staff, first of all, I recognized a young lady was by herself. And some of the staff later down pointed her out as a lady with ego, a young lady with ego. And as they were talking, I didn't see the ego in the young lady. I see something else. And what I decided to do is to engage with her. And what I've learned is that that young lady was battling with so much of fear and so much of doubt of public speaking and, you know, engaging with others. And so she withdrew. The safest thing that she did is withdraw from socialization. And they had a different interpretation of why she was doing what she is doing and why she is the way she is. So that goes to show that so many people are struggling with this, but they're being misinterpreted as being standoffish and being, um, you know, better than the rest, because that's how they were feeling. They were feeling that towards her, but she was feeling inadequacy. She was feeling weakness. She was feeling lack, but they did not see it. So there's where I had to now go in and say, okay, your interpretation of this person is 101% wrong. And that emphasized my point that you have so many persons like that that are struggling in silence. And sometimes when we are too quick to judge people, we often misjudge people and end up hurting those people much more than they deserve being hurt. And you push them out of organization. And if you work with them, you create a different equation. Now, let me say also what we have done. We have started a program that we call Inspire the Child, Inspire Change Foundation, because we know that this is something that a lot of young people struggle with. And the Inspire the Child, Inspire Change Foundation was for young people. We teaching them that you don't have to flow in lack. You don't have to settle to be average. You want to settle to be the best. So when young people come into our program and we recognize that they were withdrawn, we are not seeing withdrawn. It's a good thing I did that program because I learned so much from that. So when you go into adult situation, you see some of the similarity. When we see they withdraw from socializing, we send our youth, the more bubbly ones, the more outgoing ones, we send them to interface with the one that are withdrawn. Oh my God, when you send them a friend over to them, they become alive. I could recall distinctly remember this young lady. She was so withdrawn that she didn't want to talk. She didn't even want to she didn't even want to come out of her mother car. So we sent the kids over and we did talk with her and they motivated her to get her out. And she came in. My God, 3 weeks later, 3 weeks later, that shy person, you can't tell was that shy person because she had known poetry, she know how to sing, and oh my God, when the mic is there, she wants to be the person in front of the mic all the time. That goes to show with the right mentorship, the right coaching, the right support system, we can get so much more out of our people. And I think that we need to come out of this quick judgmental attitude because we're not only hurting self, you're hurting the other person. And I think by extension, you're hurting society. I always learn that hurt people end up hurting people. And we need to find a way to heal through that process. So I know I went on long here, but a couple of quick things that I want to say before I open up. In spite of doubt and fear, you still need to build the wall one block at a time. Don't allow fear to hold you back. You need to embrace fear and grow through the pain. Embrace fear. Embrace it. Don't allow it to make you scared. Embrace it. And just say to yourself, this is another stepping stone that I am prepared for and I'm going to grow through this pain. Very often when you develop this mindset of growing through pain, you learn a lot. Because experience do two things to you. It builds you or it breaks you. And you got to make a conscious decision that whatever experience it is, you will allow it to build you, not break you. You have what it takes within you to take whatever the world is going to bring at you and learn from it and grow through it. The last statement, doubt and fear is not the enemy. Make it your friend. Make it your friend. And why am I saying this? As you go through these doubts and these fear, it trains you to do something. It trains you to become a critical thinker. Because have you ever been in fear and you're asking yourself, should I do this or should I not do this? If you allow the fear to hold you back and you don't go and get what I love talking about, data, use fear to go and become data driven, where you're researching things and you are saying, I'm fearful of this because I'm fearful of the outcome. But what if I can get information that allows me to be more predictable, have more predictable indicators as to what the outcome is going to be? So use fear to become a critical thinker. And you're going to see that your reality is going to begin to change. But just don't allow fear to hold you back. Just don't suffer in silence. So coming back to the question, do too many people struggle in silence with a lack of self-confidence? Your thoughts on that? Shivani, Peter.
Okay, all right. So since my dear wonderful Wonder Woman is giving me the mighty Peter to go first.
Yes, I'm allowing it this time.
Yeah, do people suffer in silence? And a lot of times, I tend to look at, we tend to look at the state of the world, right? The measurement that I use for a lot of what we're doing now, because our objective is this, in as much as this is a big question, but it has to be answered, that we kind of design our programs to ask the question, how can we make the world a better place, with this individual, with this organization, with this agency that we're working with. And so how can we, is there an issue where individuals are concerned? Um, yes, by far, because if we look at the state of the world, then we do realize that something is awry. And so the question is then how can um, how can we fix it? And the issue is that we get individuals to understand that we have a responsibility. Each person do have a
Okay, the
responsibility.
first. Go ahead,
And,
Peter. Sorry about that.
and the various structures that we have to do, and the four dimensions, as we mentioned, because if we can get those layers in place where everything is being done not just for itself, but for something else. So fixing the personal confidence, dealing with the confidence issue is not just for the confidence issue, because if it's just for the confidence of the person, then that is going to go into the direction that we don't want to go. Because as we mentioned, that confidence, if it is for itself, it becomes arrogant. Because if I'm being confident just for the sake of beating my chest, then after a while, nobody really wants to work with me or to be around me, because I'm acting more than what I ought to be. But if it is there for the upliftment and the empowerment of those who are around me, which now goes into the second dimension of family and friends, the relationship that we have with that inner circle, that next level of circles of individuals that we're dealing with, to the community, which it now expands out to the community. And then it has the protective structures of corporate designs. Then going back to the foundation, all each individual have to do, we will begin to do, is to monitor that at his end. Monitor that place where he or she is at, and let it, the ripple effect. Because as you mentioned, Gary, that you just use the children to impact the children, because once it is there, it is easily can it's contagious. And that's something that I do realize. Self-confidence is also contagious within the right environment. So with that, I believe that individuals can have that kind of an impact, standing in your position, and then encourage others to do the same as
well. Great. Thanks for that share, Peter. Self-confidence is contagious. I love that. Shivani.
Yeah. I totally agree with that statement. Self-confidence is contagious. So you mentioned in terms of if a lot of persons, are suffering in silence, and I would agree with that statement. There's a lot of persons, and we don't know, we may not know. Sometimes you may look at, and I think you all mentioned it, the person may be really good in their profession, in their academic world and all of that, but yet they are suffering in silence. They're not confident enough. They were able to pass an exams and get a good job because that's how the society judge people, if you have the qualifications to do the job, and you end up just growing up in the industry like that. But the confidence, but take away certain aspects of that job, and you can't survive. You can't survive at all, because that is what, helps you. The job itself. And that's another conversation. Sometimes we place so much emphasis on what we are doing, and and if you lose it for whatever reason in the organization, you cannot function.
You can rebel.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you can.
Mm-hmm.
So there are a lot of persons who are definitely, we may judge people, we may think that they look in a certain way, and they may be very confident. But when you start to get to know the individual or speaking to the individual, you realize, no, they're not. They're not. The organization is a little small pond, and they're large in that. They're very large in that. So they feel, they're quite big, but put them in another space and they cannot function, as I said. Now, we must be able to do something, right? At the end of the day, we can't have people next to us and or where in your community, what have you, and you don't speak to people you don't know, you don't learn. So it all starts with us as an individual. If you are recognizing that in people, and we have to try to do something. I may not be the psychologist, I may not be trained, but I may know somebody that could help, you know? So I'll put you on to that person. And we need to care about people more. We need to care about people more. Coming out of the pandemic and during the pandemic, really, when it was really bad, there were a lot of persons that would have called me up. And what I realized, they just wanted to talk. That's all they wanted to do. But we had loads of phone calls and just talking, finding out. You might talk about a movie, talk about my favorite topic again, coffee, tea, you know, and people felt better after the conversation. So what is it saying? We need to be what? Our brother's keeper, our brother's keeper. And that's what we need to do more of with people. We need to listen more, especially if you are around persons that you are supervising and that you are managing. It's a pet peeve of mine because I believe you could break people very easily, that you could make them higher, you know? So it's up to us to be able to instill that in persons. And self confidence is very contagious, as you said, Peter. So if we are self-confident as the individual, we can help people. They can want to be around you more and get out of the fear as well and say, well, if Peter is doing it and he's the mighty Scott, I can do it too. I can do it too. So yeah, my little 2 cents.
All right, thanks for that share, Shivani. As you guys speak, I reflecting on a meeting I was recently called to. I think it was in December. I was called to a meeting with some leaders. I think they are behind the 67th precinct in Brooklyn. And it's a group of people who have come together to become mentors to young people. And they have also elected me to function as a mentor. But what I've learned from that entire platform by just sitting into this meeting is that a young man shared his story. He said he was lost, he was hopeless. He was struggling in his own, fear for life. But he said one person his teacher decided to reach out to him, and because the teacher recognized where he was, and that teacher started to mentor and coach him, and that teacher became somewhat a lifelong teacher. But he said that teacher in his life helped to transform him in such a way that he became a serial entrepreneur, where he's making multiple 6 figures in terms of his business and 7 figures. Now, he said because of the mentorship that he would have received, he has now committed his life to mentoring young people. So I think the 67 precincts out of Brooklyn, they have formed they have attracted so many talent to work with young people, to provide them with that mentorship, that coaching, that support, to really help them to overcome fear. So that's my closing remarks here. I want to have Shivani and Peter, and then Shivani come back with your closing remarks. Mentorship, coaching can go a very pivotal way in helping to transform people's lives, helping them to overcome fear, helping them to become more self-confident and confident, and achieve much more out of life. Peter, your closing remarks.
Yeah, Gary. So what we love individuals as you walk away from this broadcast today, from this program today, and you are going to interface with your situations in your world, whatever it is that you are engaged in. Yes, we're saying that I'd like to just say this: proper balance. Proper balance is very important. Self-confidence, even in just the word, it's a balancing act is involved, self-confidence. And while we em- like to empower individuals to be self-confident, it's a word that I like to also empower individuals to understand that we ought not to think of ourselves more than we ought. And it's a scripture verse that has served me very well, that we should not think about ourselves more highly than we ought, because that's the part of the root where all the crazy and all the breakdown of the world is concerned, because you have human beings trying to take authority over other human beings taking away the rights of other human beings because they have become what their life has afforded them. They now that that gives them the privilege, or that gives them the authority to command other people. So it's a very delicate thing where confidence is concerned. So what we do empower individuals to do, and what we're saying to those who are here walking away from today, is number one: when you understand who you are, then nobody can take advantage of you. And in essence, knowing who you are causes you to also understand that you can't do it by yourself. You need other people. And so within that self-confidence, that contagious self-confidence, the reason why it is contagious is because you are strong enough in yourselves to know, in yourself, you have that foundation to know who you are. But then when you see that person who is outside, operating outside of their scope of what they ought to be, you are strong enough to also encourage, as Shibane was saying, to be that person who's going to move over, like sending those children to get that child out of the car. You will be willing to say, you know what, let me just take a minute to be empathetic to this individual, to put myself in in this individual's shoes, to understand what's going on, and to see if I can help. And as a Shibane says, if I'm not in a position to help there and then, if you are not in a position to there and then, don't just leave, but actually to make some recommendations, to say, maybe the person needs to do this, or to recommend some, remedy to the individual, passing that person on to somebody else, to say, can you see to that this person gets out of this position? And if we do that, when we do that, the world, we're making our world, if not the grand apparatus, if not the big wide world out there, then our world will become a better place. And joining our world in that master plan structure that we talk about, from the personal to the family to the community and to the corporate, then we will find that ripple effect. And at the end of the day, we can close our eyes on that final day, and we can feel confident even in checking out, to say that I've done what I came here to do.
All right. And great share. Love it. Great share. Your closing remarks, Shivani?
Confidence for me, you could learn it. As you said to Peter, even if, what about persons, Gary, who didn't, it wasn't part of them from the beginning of their foundation? You can get it. I will never say you can't learn something. Just so how to learn it and who to learn it from. Where are you going to get it from? That's what we need to know. And in my experience, I found project management, when done properly, of course, and an understanding of this methodology can help you to put yourself in many different areas. And you test the water, so to speak. So thinking about project management and then taking it in different areas makes you much more self-confident, because you're not staying in the same industry. You're using the project management framework to learn different things, to do different things. So you might do it in construction because that's where you came from, but then guess what? You could do it in IT, you could do it in curriculum design. So when you have that understanding that you could pivot in many different areas, you don't think only in a silo way. So for me, in my experiences, project management really has assisted me tremendously also in that area to become more self-confident.
All right, thanks for that share, Shivani. There's a couple of things that I want to say. Um, Confidence is best learned by doing. You have to practice it. And I guess that's one of the reasons why Shivani talks a lot about practitioners. Because the more you practice something is the more experience that you're getting laying out one block at a time. I also want to say this, and I can recall, I think it was only a couple of days ago, I went to visit a college and I was talking with one of the faculty heads. And we had common understanding that there's so much that you can learn from the theory, so much. But there's a certain type of learning that you get from the practice that the theory can't come close to it. Because the practice is where you having this experience, and experiential learning to me transcends the theory, because you know you have done it, you know you have tested the waters, you know the results. So because you now have tested the water and you know the consistent, predictable outcome that you can get, it literally makes you the expert on what you're dealing with. And expertise is the built-up of experience, if you really think about it. All right. So as we move forward into our respective institutions, just food for thoughts. The theory is important. We cannot discount it. But the practical is so, so, so important that we should never disregard it. It is an essential part of the learning equation. So with that being said, I want to thank my panelists for being here today. I think you guys have done a wonderful job going into today's conversation. We had a light conversation on fear versus self-confidence, fear versus confidence. I do believe it's a vital, important talking point, and we just need to have this type of conversation more often. So I trust for the public you're getting that flavor. Sometimes we go deep into business and finance, and sometimes we come to the lighter side of things because, we believe that we need to know how to blend hardcore academic information with, the lighter side of life. Today's the walk in the park, but it's still necessary. You need to take that walk in the park from time to time. I want to say hello, a big shout out to our audience who are viewing this program from across the world. And as I said, later on, we're going to we are doing the analytics. The program we did yesterday, because we do repackage and rebrand, we see in less than 24 hours, we had over 500 views on that platform alone. But I'm going to expose all of that soon. We are doing the analytics. We know that we are reaching persons in Venezuela, in India, in China, in United States of America. We are reaching persons across the world. So I really want to thank you for taking the time to tune into these programs. And I really, I can't thank you enough. So with that being said, I want to say today's Friday. They normally say, thank God it's Friday. So do enjoy the weekend ahead of you. And also remember, we have another special program tomorrow, which is the High Net Worth Investors Guide. And if you're in business and you want to know how to position yourself to greatness, I encourage you to come look at our program. It's 2 p.m. EST. If you want a live program and you want to also chat with us live, come join us tomorrow. So with that being said, I want to say thank you and goodbye.